Buongiorno, bom dias, ni hao, salam alaikum, shalom, konnichiwa. Dobry vlavich, namaste, anyan, kalimera, dobre dan en een goeie dag. Qui parle français sur le bateau, levez la main s'il vous plaît. Okay. Who speaks or understands English on the ship? Raise your hands. Là aussi, vous aussi, ouais. Est-ce qu'il y a des gens qui parlent français qui ne comprennent aucun mot l'anglais? Ça c'est rare, ça c'est rare. Dans ma main, toujours une qui dit non. Ça va en anglais pour vous? Ouais? Die Leute, die das sprechen auch, die sprechen alle in Englisch? Ja? Das ist fantastisch. Okay. So, an English tour. Alright. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everybody on board. First of all, in front of you, a medieval rocket. Well, actually, that's the Church of Our Lady. And inside the church, there's a statue of Michelangelo. And Michelangelo, you might know him because he's one of the 4 Ninja Turtles. The statue was stolen twice, once by Napoleon and once by Adolf Hitler. And that makes the score 1-0. Now the church itself was made in little bricks until the top, and most guides will tell you it's 122 meters high. Well, actually the first time they've measured it from sea level off, and then they've measured 122 meters. So basically it's only 115.5 meters high, but still, it's the second tallest building made in little bricks in the world. Now the tallest one is standing in Germany. I don't know where, but you can see it because it's a tall one. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go underneath a bridge. And this bridge was built in 3 centuries time, the 14th, the 15th and the 16th century. So if you ask me, Belgians are extremely slow workers. Now actually we're also quite lazy. As you can see, we forgot to take away our Christmas decoration over here. But we now use them as Easter eggs instead. Behind the next bridge on the left you can see 2 houses. And the first house belongs to my father. And the second house belongs to my mother. And they're living apart together. But they do have a connecting door in case of emergencies. And I was made in such an emergency. But it only took 4.5 minutes. But then again, that's the average of every European country. So I'm awfully sorry for the people from the UK on board. I don't know when, you probably also don't know when, but maybe you're gonna lose 1 minute. If you decide to leave, of course. So behind the next bridge now, on the right, you have the old hospital, the St. John's. And the hospital was operational from the 11th century until the 70s. And that worries me, because I was born in that very hospital, but just before they closed it. So until today, I wonder what happened. There's a couple of things that are really popular to do here in Bruges. Number 1 is actually taking pictures without consent from on the bridges. I'll show you number 2 and 3 a little bit later. Taking pictures without consent on 1. So here on the right you got the buildings of the hospital. part, second part, and a bit further the third part. And behind the third part, you're going to see also the Cathedral of St. Saviour's. And that's the oldest church in town. So over here on the right, you see all the other buildings of the hospital. And behind that there, the Cathedral of St. Saviour's. And over there, that reddish building over there, that's the new concert hall. Well, new. 15 years old, something like that. Right, behind the next bridge now, on the left you see the chimney over there of the brewery where they brew the Straffe Hendrik Quadruple. And ladies and gentlemen, if you drink 2 of those beers, you will find yourselves to be in heaven. And the thing is, if you drink 4 of those beers, you will not remember anything about it. Please do not get overexcited when you get underneath this bridge here. As you can see, I got overexcited once. On the right hand side of the bridge there's a baggage, and all the way in the back there's a house, and behind that house lies the Lake of the Lovers. Now the water over there is half a meter higher than here. And in total, we have 250 swans in Bruges, but unlike in England, the swans here are not protected by the Queen. Now, this is mainly because our royal family doesn't eat swans. The protection of the swans in England was done by Henry VIII swans, but he also chopped off the heads of his wives, and I do not know if there's a correlation. You know that I was born and raised here in Bruges, and that way I now know all the swans by name. Over there in the middle there, that's George and Ralph. They're a gay couple. Hi, George. So there's no use in going any further, so I'm just gonna turn around here. And I actually want to tell you now something about the Lords of Bruges, because we're gonna pass their house in an instant, but for a second time. Now, the Lords of Bruges, that was an extremely rich family. And they were so rich because they owned the rights of Gruit in the area. And Gruit, that's a herb which was used to brew beer. And as you know, Belgians drink an awful lot of beer, so they were quite rich. But Gruit later on was replaced by hops, and that's mainly the fault of Protestants, because they didn't like the side effects that Gruit had on men. Now, I was just checking if we got children on board, but I'm going to keep it decent. Let's just say that nowadays men would take little blue pills to achieve the same results. So if this interests you, you can talk to me after the tour. I promise you I will not give you a demonstration. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a canal at all. It's most definitely a river, and it's called the Ree. Now, the first people that live here were Druids, and they worshipped this river, but they didn't call it Ree like we do. They called it Rogia. And Rogia is a Celtic word, and it means holy water. Now, we also found coins dating from the year 740, and that's the Gallo-Roman period. And on these coins there was an inscription Brugia, and that's where the name Brugge comes from. And Brugia means a place where you can stop with a boat, not necessarily a port. The port of Bruges itself was founded in 950, and the decline of the port started somewhere by the end of the 16th century. I still need to show you the 3 most popular things to do in Bruges. As I said, number 1 is taking pictures without consent. And number 2 is staring. And then number 3, with a bit of help, is waving. There you go. You will not find this on TripAdvisor. Thank you very much, sir. On the left-hand side of the next bridge now, you will find the palace of the Lords of Bruges. And when you look at the wall, somewhere in the middle, in the corner, you'll find 2 tiny Gothic windows, the little spy windows. So there you got the bridge, on the left you got the palace, and about now, over there in the middle, you should see those 2 tiny Gothic windows over there. Right, behind the next bridge now we arrive at the Rosary Quay. And the Rosary Quay, that used to be a port where salt was mainly delivered, and salt was extremely expensive. Now, somewhere in history, people actually got paid by salt, like the Roman military at the time were paid by salt. And the Latin words for salt is sal. So next time you receive your salary. Now you know where that word comes from. And also behind the bridge, I will turn to the left, and then you will find the Belfry Tower. And the Belfry Tower, that's a commercial building, and it leans over to the right, just like the Tower of Pisa. Now, every year it leans over a tiny bit more, so I would love to invite you back in 800 years. And then you'll be able to take the same picture you're going to take now, but in the landscape. Now, also know that the Chinese population have declared the Belfry Tower as one of the ugliest buildings in the world. Thank you, China. Sure, that's thank you in Chinese. And ladies and gentlemen, please do have a look here to the left. See this on the left here? Well, that's all of you approximately 15 minutes ago. And over there, this gentleman there, that's my boss. Best boss in town. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually not a stupid idea to turn to the left here. The alternative would be rather silly. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Right in front of you, the Belfry Tower. 366 steps of agony. Now, the Belfry Tower was also constructed in 2 stages. The first stage was until the 4 little towers, but then something absolutely horrible happened in Ghent. They built a bigger Belfry Tower. So, the Belgians put an octave on top of it to be bigger than the one in Ghent again. And that's the main reason now why it leans over to the right. Now, funny enough, if we go to the other side of the building, it actually also tends to lean over to the left as well. I can explain that. And it also used to have a wooden top, but it was struck by lightning twice. So it's a bit of an AC/DC tower. And talking about AC/DC, the guy that plays the Belfry sometimes plays songs of AC/DC, and even Nirvana and David Bowie and Stones. He's quite a modern guy. Anyway, behind the corner here on the left, That's the back side of the City Hall of Bruges. Obviously, that's totally uninteresting. But you do need to know that the City Hall of Bruges is also a model for most of the city halls in Belgium, like the ones in Ghent, Brussels and Antwerp. And the second bridge you see over there, that's the oldest bridge in town. It's called the Bridge of Me, and it's 600 years old. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we also have some contemporary art in Bruges. Contemporary art, over there on the left, there's a statue, and that's made by Constant Vermeeke. Please, ladies and gentlemen, admire here the statue of the naked woman looking at a light that does not work. It's contemporary art. It's mostly for intellectuals, perverts, and light technicians. Now, in the corners of the bridges, you will often find holes, and these are the old sewers. And in medieval times, sewer water ended up in the river. Now, believe it or not, in medieval times, we also brewed beer with the water from the river. As a result, we now have a shitload of beer. And a bit further, we could turn to the right. And ladies and gentlemen, if we would follow that for, let's say, 2,500 kilometers, we would end up in St. Petersburg. But I'm awfully sorry, due to the absence of the yellow jackets, I was not able to fill the ship up with diesel this morning. So, sadly enough, we need to go to the left instead, and that's in the direction of the sea. And if we would follow that for 13 kilometers, we would arrive at the port of Bruges, the coast. A tea house, 19th century. A fireway, 11th century. A fence, 21st century. And ladies and gentlemen, the worst painting in the world. And from some angles it looks like she's wearing a diaper underneath the dress. I can imagine that must be rather difficult to paint, let alone finding a model willing to pose like that. And behind the bridge here, we've got St. Anne's, and that's one of the richer parts of Bruges, St. Anne's. Also over there, the Church of St. Anne's. I was wondering, ladies and gentlemen, would you happen to know a small company specialized in making hamburgers? They're called the McDonald's. Have you heard of them? You see, I'm actually quite seriously considering suing Ronald McDonald. The reason why I would like to sue him is because I claim the logo of the McDonald's. We designed it in the 16th century, actually. I know you will not believe me, so I invite everybody here on the boat to look at house number 10 here on the left. Ladies and gentlemen, look at house number 10 here. And now look up. And go ba-da-ba-ba-ba. The little windows that you see on top of the houses, well, they used to be the windows where the staff used to live, but a bit further you're going to find a lot of those windows that are bricked out. Well, as in France and in England, we were also taxed on the amount of windows and doors we had. So over here, the rich just closed down the windows of the staff. Now that's good management if you ask me. And it's got a name in management terms. This is called either the mushroom or the mussel treatment. And that states that you need to keep your workers in the dark, wet, and above all times underfed. Anyway, behind the next bridge now, we arrive at what used to be the main entry of the old port of Bruges. At the right hand side of the port used to be the Dutch side, the left side used to be the Spanish side. You can recognize the Dutch side. You see a house in a clock-shaped form over there. That's a textbook Dutch house. The left side used to be the Spanish side. You cannot recognize that as we're not there yet. But ladies and gentlemen, nowadays we actually also have a Turkish side. It's over there on the right. You will clearly see that's the house of Mr. Erdogan. And if you've been following the financial news, you will know that the Turkish lira at the moment is devaluating quite strongly, if I may say so. So as you can see, Mr. Erdogan is now also forced of renting out his penthouse. And between the 14th and the 16th century, there were approximately 10,000 boats coming here every month to load and offload. Now, 10,000 boats per month, ladies and gentlemen, that's an awful lot of boats. But at that time, the port of Bruges was also the biggest port of the whole of Europe. And now this honor goes to the port of Rotterdam. On the left here, house number 19, that's the house with the green windows and the lantern. That used to be the house that belonged to General Spinola. And mostly, when I have people from Spain on board, they will tell me General Spinola was Spanish. Mostly, when I have people from Portugal on board, they will tell me General Spinola was Portuguese. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to look it up, and he's born in Italy. In front of you, the house with the tower, that's where merchants came together to do business. And in front of the house, there's a statue, and that's the statue of Jan van Eyck. He's a famous Belgian painter. And he's actually also the man that invented the oil paint. Over here on the right, this used to be a monastery. Now it's a school. And in the beginning of the Second World War, this was used by the Germans as a headquarters. Now, by the end of the Second World War, it was used by the British as a headquarters. So you actually have the same taste in headquarters. If you're bored with my stories, I can drop you off over there. And there you have some mistakes from the 70s. So am I. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, I don't know if you can see it, but all the way in the back there, on the left-hand side, you might see the tiniest bridge of Bruges. Now, may I ask everybody to hold on to something quite firmly at the moment? I actually received an email from the mayor from Bruges, and he urged me never, ever to use it again. So they've put a fence in front of it now. Did you read about that? That was such an amazing story. There was a hipster, and he was complaining about the fact that they used a picture of him to explain that hipsters look all the same. And he sued him for it. And then it turned out that it wasn't him. Anyway, I got a fairly long story to tell you. And first of all, I want to explain how Bruges became to be so rich. Well, Bruges became rich because of sheep. You see, the soil around Bruges was very salty and it got flooded off by the sea. So the only animals farmers could keep were sheep. Hence, we had loads of sheep. Plenty of wool. And the wool we had was of an extremely high quality. And on top of that, farmers did not receive a lot of money for their wool. And that's how the textile industry grew enormously big here in Bruges. And that's how Bruges became to be the richest city of Europe. Hooray! Right. Now please let me also explain to you how Bruges became to be extremely poor. And I'm warning you, this is a city story. Now Bruges became poor because of sheep. Because they sat an enormous lot. Now they sat so much that the soil around Bruges became to be fertile. And seen as that soil was fertile, farmers decided to put cows instead of sheep. Now you all know that cows sit even more than sheep, but that was no longer the issue. The problem was we didn't have any more wool. So we needed to start import wool from Scotland and Spain and Iceland and Norway, and that wool was a lot more expensive, and it was total rubbish. See, that's how Bruges lost their textile industry to the cities Ghent and Antwerp. And from then on, ladies and gentlemen, Bruges became to be poor. And for 350 years in a row, Bruges was the poorest city of Europe. Right. I've got one more thing to explain, and that's how Bruges became rich again. Well, that was because we were poor. Now, seeing as we were poor, and the cities around Bruges obviously were quite rich, well, they had the money to demolish their old buildings and put new ones on. And they had the money to demolish their city walls and put roads on. Belgians didn't have any money. So, instead of constructing new buildings, they started repairing everything they had. And repairing. 350 years of bloody repairing. And after 350 years of repairing, you lot came along. You know what you said? So blimey, this is bloody well repaired. And it's romantic, and it's historical, and on top of that, you got the finest captains in the world. Thank you very much, that's very kind. Behind the bridge here on the right-hand side, you've got an ox-red-colored building. And in the middle of the building, you will see a little statue. Now that dates from the time that we did not even use house numbers yet. And then mostly the sign of the profession of the people that lived in the house was either put in the middle or on top of the house. Now, this little statue over there, that represents a musician. So once upon a time, there was a musician living in that house. Oh, that's romantic, isn't it? That's very romantic. There you got the statue. On his back he's got his instruments, right? Now, also above the doors and the windows you often see those little faces. And over here, those two faces on the left here, you see that these faces are quite nice. And they're almost like children's faces, really. And this was to point out to the people that were passing by that the people that lived in this house were very nice and friendly and good looking and charming and blah 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 and yada yada yada. I see number 14 here. That's the house of my mother-in-law. That's not true. She's also very nice and friendly, by the way. And I actually suppose that the people that lived in number 14 were also very friendly and nice and good looking, but they believed in demons. And if you believed in demons, then you needed to put ugly faces above your windows and your doors. And if you then stayed at home all the time, you were perfectly safe. Except if you have a dog like that. The first bridge ever built in Bruges was right here on this spot. This was actually a highway built by the Romans going to Dixmude. See those two over there on the bridge? They're now going to Dixmude. And they just came back. That's 45 kilometers, something like that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite sorry, but it looks to me that we're almost at the end of the tour. I'm not at all at the end of my stories yet. So I'm going to tell you one more. Behind the two bridges now, on the left-hand side, you will find the fish market of Bruges. And the fish market of Bruges was a gift by Napoleon. And I admit I am not the biggest fan of Napoleon. I mean, to be honest, first of all, he stole our statue of Michelangelo, and then in return he gave us a stinky gift, the fish market. But ladies and gentlemen, behind the fish market lies another market, and that's the market where they sold animal skins. Now that too is an extremely stinky and smelly market, and I've actually put them together deliberately. And this was to make sure Brugians only had one part of Bruges that was awfully stinky and smelly. Now, funny enough, across the fish market, they also installed the Palace of Justice of Bruges, and next to the Palace of Justice they installed the City Hall of Bruges. So, actually in a way you could say that they've managed to put everything that smells here together. And on that bombshell, I am definitely at the end of the tour, and still not at the end of my stories. But I do hope that you enjoyed my stories, and if you did, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to leave a tip later on in the captain's head. Of course, if you didn't like it, well, feel free to tell me about it. But then don't be surprised at the moment that you feel yourself being tossed into the water. But it was an absolute pleasure having you all aboard, and I wish you a wonderful day here in Bruges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy your whole day.